The massive viewing window of Earth's hidden orbital station stretched from floor to ceiling, offering a breathtaking view of both their home planet and the unwelcome visitors who had arrived in the solar system. Admiral Taiwan stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of Earth below. His dark eyes tracked the movement of the Imperial scout vessels, their sleek forms cutting through space with an arrogance that made his jaw tighten. The bridge hummed with quiet activity as crew members monitored their stations. The air was thick with anticipation. This moment had been centuries in the making. Humanity had watched, waited, and prepared for the day when the galaxy would finally notice them. That day had arrived. Captain Sunmi's fingers moved swiftly across her holographic display, the light casting a pale glow across her focused features. Her station was surrounded by screens showing detailed analyses of the alien vessels. "Admiral, I'm detecting active scanning patterns from all 3 scout ships. They're being thorough, but they're only seeing what our surface tech allows them to see." Taiwan allowed himself a small smile. The Galactic Hegemony ships were impressive, certainly, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly metal that seemed to drink in starlight. But they were scanning Earth with the casual interest of a predator examining what it assumed to be easy prey. They had no idea they were being watched by technology far beyond their understanding. "Show me their scan patterns," Taiwan ordered, moving to stand behind Sunmi's station. A 3-dimensional projection appeared, showing the areas of Earth the Imperial ships were focusing on. They were particularly interested in the visible infrastructure, the old-style satellite network, the public space stations, the lunar mining operations that used deliberately outdated equipment. "They're falling for it completely," Sunmi said, pride evident in her voice. "Their scans show confusion over our apparent technological level. They're seeing a civilization that's barely reached its moon, still struggling with primitive rocket technology." A young lieutenant approached with a data pad. "Sir, we're picking up their communications. They're reporting back to their fleet. They're calling us primitive, pre-space age." Taiwan exchanged knowing looks with his bridge crew. Humanity had spent generations building this facade, carefully hiding their true capabilities beneath a veneer of technological infancy. The quantum shielding that hid their real infrastructure was invisible to Imperial sensors. The massive fleet waiting in the Kuiper Belt might as well not exist. The advanced colonies on Mars, hidden beneath the surface, appeared to be nothing more than basic research outposts. "Sir," Sunmei called out, her tone sharpening. "They're deploying atmospheric probes. Looks like they want a closer look." "Let them come," Taiwan replied. "Tactical, make sure our surface defense grid remains in stealth mode. If they detect anything, it should look like basic radar systems." He turned to his communications officer. "Get me General Jiho at Luna Base. It's time to start the next phase." The holographic display at the center of the bridge flickered to life, showing the stern face of General Jiho. The lunar base commander's image was slightly distorted. Another carefully crafted illusion to maintain their technological masquerade. "They've taken the bait," Taiwan reported. "Prepare your forces for their diplomatic approach. They'll want to make a show of force first, probably within the next 48 hours. Jiho nodded. "My teams are ready. The surface installations are fully camouflaged. They'll see exactly what they expect to see. A handful of frightened scientists and some outdated mining equipment." Taiwan turned back to the viewing window, watching as one of the Imperial scouts made a lazy pass around Earth's orbit. The ship's design spoke of arrogance, all smooth lines and visible weapons. They wanted to be seen, wanted to inspire fear. If they had any idea what truly waited for them in this solar system, they would have never come so close. "Admiral," Sunmei called out, "they're beginning their final sweep. Based on their patterns, they'll report back to their main fleet within the hour." "Good," Taiwan replied. "Send word to all hidden installations. Operation First Contact is proceeding as planned. Everyone knows their roles." He paused, watching as the scout ships began to move away from Earth's orbit. Let them come with their diplomats and their threats. Let them think they've found another easy conquest. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, each person aware of the weight of history pressing down on this moment. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this encounter, building their strength in secret, developing technologies that would make the Empire's best weapons look like children's toys. As the Imperial scouts disappeared into the darkness of space, Ta-1 thought about the generations of humans who had worked towards this moment. They had known this day would come, the day when humanity would finally reveal itself to the galaxy. Not as victims, not as another conquered race, but as something the galactic hegemony had never encountered before, an enemy that was ready for them. Send the coded signal to all Earth Defense Forces, Ta-1 ordered. The game begins now. Let's show these Imperial scouts exactly what they expect to see. A primitive world ripe for conquest. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Let them come thinking we're weak. The warning we'll give them will mean so much more when they realize just how badly they've underestimated us. The bridge crew acknowledged his orders, and the hidden orbital station continued its silent watch over Earth. Soon, very soon, the galactic hegemony would learn why humanity had chosen to hide its true nature for so long. And when that lesson came, it would shake the foundations of their empire. The underground diplomatic chamber in Singapore was a marvel of hidden engineering. Though to the Imperial delegation's eyes, it appeared to be nothing more than a well-appointed meeting room. The crystalline beings that made up the hegemony's diplomatic corps sat rigidly in their chairs, their translucent forms catching and refracting the room's lighting in ways that created dancing patterns on the walls. Across from them, Earth's United Defense Council maintained perfect composure, decades of preparation evident in their calm demeanor. Ambassador Han studied the aliens with carefully concealed interest. Their crystalline bodies housed complex networks of light and energy that served as their neural pathways. High Executor Valix, their leader, towered over his companions, his form shifting between deep purple and blue hues that indicated his emotional state. Behind Han, Fleet Commander Du Yun stood at parade rest, her face an expressionless mask that revealed nothing of the massive military force she commanded. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. The Imperial delegation had arrived in what they considered an overwhelming show of force. A fleet of 50 warships holding position just beyond Mars' orbit. They had no idea that for every one of their ships, 3 of humanity's vessels watched from perfect stealth, weapons primed and ready. Han rose from her seat with deliberate grace. Her ceremonial uniform, a masterpiece of understated elegance, caught the light and drew the attention of every crystalline being in the room. She had chosen it carefully, not too advanced to raise suspicion, but impressive enough to command respect. Distinguished representatives of the galactic hegemony, she began, her voice clear and steady. We appreciate you taking the time to visit our world. The translator devices hummed softly, converting her words into the musical tones of the Imperial language. Valix's surface rippled with what humans had learned was their equivalent of a condescending smile. We come bearing great news, he announced, his voice creating harmonics that made the humans' teeth ache. The hegemony has chosen to extend its protection to your world. Your species will benefit from our guidance and technology. Du Yun shifted slightly behind Han, the only sign of her carefully controlled anger. They had seen this pattern before. The Empire's protection always ended with subjugation and resource exploitation. That's very kind of you, Han replied, maintaining her diplomatic smile. However, there's something you should know. She paused, letting the moment stretch. We've known of your Empire's expansion for decades. We've watched as you've conquered world after world, always using the same tactics, always offering the same false choice between submission and destruction. The crystalline beings shifted, their colors darkening with surprise and confusion. Valix's form pulsed with deep red undertones, a sign of anger. You claim knowledge of matters beyond your technological capability, he said dismissively. We claim nothing, Hayan continued. We state facts. We know of the Proxima Rebellion. We know about the Centauri subjugation. We know exactly how many worlds you've added to your empire in the last century alone. With each statement, the Imperial delegation's colors shifted more dramatically. This is not a negotiation, Hayan stated, her voice taking on an edge of steel. This is a warning. Run. Return to your worlds and never approach Earth space again. The chamber fell silent. The Imperial delegate's colors swirled in patterns of disbelief and outrage. Valix's form crystallized further, a sign of aggressive posturing among his kind. You dare threaten the hegemony? He demanded, his harmonics sharp enough to crack lesser materials. No, Hayan replied simply. We're trying to save your lives. The other council members remained perfectly still as Valix rose to his full height, towering over the human ambassador. You are children playing at diplomacy, he snarled. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Your technology is centuries behind ours. We offered you mercy. Now you will learn the price of defiance. Hayan didn't flinch. Instead, she nodded to Du-Yun, who stepped forward and activated a small device. The room's holographic projectors came to life, displaying images that made the Imperial delegation freeze in shock. These are live feeds, Du-Yun explained calmly. Your fleet beyond Mars. They're currently surrounded by our ships, your hidden reinforcements in the Kuiper Belt. We've had them under surveillance since they arrived. The weapon platforms you thought we couldn't detect. We've already disabled them. The Imperial delegate's colors paled to almost white, a sign of extreme distress. Valix's form shimmered with rage and disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. We tried to warn you peacefully, Hayan said, genuine regret in her voice. We have no desire for war. But make no mistake, if you force this conflict, you will not face some primitive civilization. You will face an enemy that has spent centuries preparing for this very moment. She sat back down, her posture relaxed but authoritative. You have 24 Earth hours to withdraw your forces from our solar system. After that, we will consider any remaining Imperial ships to be hostile forces, and we will respond accordingly. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Choose wisely, High Executor. Your empire's future may depend on it. The meeting ended shortly after, with the Imperial delegation practically fleeing the chamber. As they left, Du-Yun turned to Han. They won't listen, she said quietly. No, Hayan agreed, watching the crystalline beings depart. They never do. But we gave them their chance. Whatever happens next is on their heads. She touched the communicator at her throat. Admiral Tadwan, they're leaving. Begin Phase 3 preparations. The real work is about to begin. The Imperial warships emerged from hyperspace in a flash of blinding light, their massive forms casting long shadows across Jupiter's surface. There were 300 of them, dreadnoughts, cruisers, and destroyers, all bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to ash. They moved into attack formation with practiced precision, their sensors scanning for the primitive defenses they expected to find. Colonel Yuna watched them from the command center of the Ganymede defense platform, her face bathed in the soft blue glow of holographic displays. To the Empire's sensors, the platform appeared to be nothing more than a simple mining station, one of dozens scattered across Jupiter's moons. The truth was far more interesting. They're moving into bombardment positions, Lieutenant Jinwoo reported from his tactical station. The young officer's fingers danced across his console, monitoring the incoming fleet's every move. They're targeting what they think are our primary power facilities. Yuna nodded, a slight smile playing across her features. Let them get comfortable. How many ships have entered the quantum net's range? First wave is fully committed. Second wave crossing the threshold now. Jinwoo paused, checking his readings. They have no idea it's there. Their sensors are completely blind to our real defenses. The command center hummed with quiet activity as dozens of operators monitored their stations. They had trained for this moment for years, running countless simulations. Now it was time to see if reality matched their preparations. All stations report ready, Jinwoo announced. Mining drone squadrons are in position. Quantum grid is at full power. Yuna straightened in her command chair. Send the signal to Earth Command. Operation Awakening is commencing. She took a deep breath, then spoke the words that would change the course of human history. Activate the quantum grid. Release the drones. Across Jupiter's moon system, what appeared to be simple mining equipment suddenly came to life. Thousands of devices that the Empire had dismissed as primitive industrial tools revealed their true nature. The quantum grid, an invisible web of energy that humanity had spent decades perfecting, sprang into existence. The effect on the Imperial fleet was immediate and devastating. Their shields flickered and died as the quantum field disrupted their power systems. Their communications dissolved into static. Their advanced targeting systems went dark. Grid is functioning at 100%, Jinwoo reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Their entire first wave is trapped. Moving to Phase 2. The mining drones rose from their hiding places on Ganymede's surface and the other Jovian moons. What had appeared to be clumsy industrial machines transformed into sleek combat units, their surfaces rippling as advanced metamaterial camouflage deactivated. Each drone was a marvel of human engineering, carrying weapons that the Empire had never encountered. Drone swarms deployed, Jinwoo announced. Beginning attack pattern Alpha. The drones moved with devastating precision, their quantum-linked AI systems coordinating their attacks with inhuman efficiency. They swarmed the disabled Imperial ships like angry wasps, their weapons cutting through the allegedly impenetrable Imperial armor like it was paper. Yuna opened a channel to Earth Command. Operation Awakening is go. Releasing the Titans. She nodded to Jinwoo. Show them what humanity has been hiding all these years. Deep beneath Ganymede's surface, massive doors began to open. From these hidden bays emerged humanity's greatest achievement in military technology. The Titan-class battleships. Each was the size of a small city, built with technology that made the Empire's most advanced vessels look like toys. The Imperial fleet's commanders finally realized they had made a terrible mistake. Their sensors, working sporadically through the quantum interference, showed them something impossible. Ships rising from what should have been a defenseless moon. Ships that dwarfed their largest dreadnoughts. Titans are fully deployed, Jinwoo reported, his voice now filled with pride. All systems nominal. They're engaging the enemy's second wave. The battle that followed was brief and brutal. The Titans moved with impossible grace for vessels their size, their quantum drives allowing them to maneuver in ways that defied conventional physics. Their weapons, the product of centuries of hidden technological development, cut through the Imperial fleet's remaining defenses like they weren't even there. Enemy fleet is in full retreat, Jinwoo announced after just 30 minutes of combat. Survivors are attempting to jump to hyperspace. Yuna nodded. Let them go. They need to report what they've seen here. She opened a channel to all stations. Well done, everyone. This was just the beginning, but you've made humanity proud today. As the remaining Imperial ships fled in panic, Yuna stood at her command station, watching the Titans move into defensive positions around Jupiter. The Empire had expected to find a primitive civilization barely capable of spaceflight. Instead, they had awakened a giant that had been preparing for this day for centuries. She touched her command console, bringing up a direct link to Earth Command. Phase 1 complete. The Empire now knows we're not as helpless as they thought. Awaiting orders for Phase 2. The response came immediately. Proceed as planned. The Empire needed to learn that humanity wasn't their prey. Now it's time to show them we're their worst nightmare. Yuna smiled as she looked out at her forces, the swarms of combat drones, the mighty Titans, and all the other surprises humanity had in store for their would-be conquerors. The Empire had ignored humanity's warning. Now they would face the consequences. The darkness of the Kuiper Belt was absolute, broken only by the distant pinprick of the sun and the faint glitter of ice crystals on countless asteroids. In this vast graveyard of planetary debris, Commander Hyun-Ki's stealth fleet waited like predators in the night. Their ships, covered in quantum absorption materials, were invisible even to the Empire's most advanced detection systems. From his command chair aboard the flagship Silent Hunter, Hyun-Ki watched the tactical display as the Imperial fleet regrouped after their devastating defeat at Jupiter. The enemy had brought in reinforcements, nearly 1,000 ships now, arranged in defensive formations that would have been impressive against a conventional force. "They're still searching for us in all the wrong places," Major Minji reported, her voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. She stood at her station, monitoring the Empire's search patterns. Their sensors are focused on the inner system. They haven't even considered looking this far out. Hyun-Ki nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. "They still think we fight like they do. Head-on battles, ship against ship." He gestured to the tactical display. "Show me the asteroid field status." Minji's fingers danced across her console, bringing up a new display. Hundreds of points of light appeared, representing the asteroids they had secretly modified over the past months. Each one was now equipped with miniature quantum drives and guidance systems. "All weapons are in position," she confirmed. "Gravity bomb launchers are primed and ready. Solar sail arrays are deployed and charging." Hyun-Ki leaned forward, studying the Imperial fleet's formation. They had arranged themselves in a classic defensive sphere, their heaviest ships forming a protective shell around their command vessels. It was a formation designed to repel attacks from any direction, any conventional attacks, at least. "Begin Operation Avalanche," he ordered. "Activate the first wave of asteroids." Throughout the Kuiper Belt, what appeared to be ordinary space rocks suddenly came to life. Their hidden quantum drives activated, and they began to move with purpose, accelerating toward the Imperial fleet at impossible speeds. "Empire's sensors have detected the incoming objects," Minji reported. "They're adjusting their formation to intercept." The Imperial ships turned their weapons toward the approaching asteroids, their energy beams attempting to destroy what they assumed were simple projectiles. But these weren't ordinary rocks. Each one was equipped with quantum shields that absorbed and redirected the enemy fire. "Launch gravity bombs," Hyun-Ki commanded. "Target their formation's weak points." From the stealth fleet's positions, dozens of small devices detached and accelerated toward the space between the asteroids and the Imperial fleet. These were humanity's gravity bombs, weapons that manipulated local spacetime itself. The effect was devastating. As the bombs detonated, they created temporary gravitational distortions that twisted space around the Imperial ships. Vessels that had been flying in perfect formation suddenly found themselves pulled in multiple directions. Their shields, designed to resist energy weapons and physical impacts, were useless against the fundamental forces of space being warped around them. "First wave of asteroids making contact," Minji announced, her voice tight with concentration. On the tactical display, they watched as the quantum-driven space rocks smashed through the now scattered Imperial formation. Ships that managed to avoid the asteroids found themselves caught in the gravitational chaos, their crews unable to compensate for the constantly shifting forces. But Hyun-Ki wasn't done. "Activate the solar sails," he ordered. "Show them why we studied our star so carefully." Massive arrays of nearly invisible solar collectors, positioned throughout the outer system, suddenly angled their surfaces. They caught and concentrated the sun's energy, redirecting it in focused beams that the Imperial ships never saw coming. The concentrated solar energy overwhelmed their thermal shields, designed for the normal rigors of space travel, but not for the focused power of a star. "Enemy fleet is breaking formation," Minji reported. "They're trying to retreat to safer distances." She paused, checking her readings. "Sir, they're attempting to coordinate a counterattack. Their sensors are sweeping the area more thoroughly now." Hyun-ki smiled. Perfect. Initiate Phase 2. Let's show them why humans learned to fight dirty long before we reached the stars. The stealth fleet began to move, their engines completely silent in the vacuum of space. They split into smaller groups, using the chaos of the asteroid attack and the gravity bombs as cover. Each ship carried a different type of unconventional weapon: quantum disruptors, electromagnetic pulse generators, and devices that could turn the Empire's own shield frequencies against them. All ships, commence guerrilla attacks, Hyun-ki ordered. Strike and fade, just like we practiced. Don't give them anything to target. The human ships darted in and out of the Imperial formation, appearing just long enough to launch their weapons before vanishing again into the quantum-cloaked darkness of space. They used the asteroids as cover, the gravity distortions as weapons, and the focused solar energy as both camouflage and attack. "Sir," Minji called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the Imperial fleet. They're calling for reinforcements. Their messages say they're under attack by space itself." Hyun-ki allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Let them learn that humans don't fight fair. We never have." He stood from his command chair, walking to the main viewport where he could see the distant flashes of battle. "We spent centuries killing each other on Earth, Major. We learned every dirty trick, every underhanded tactic, every way to turn an environment against an enemy. Now the Empire gets to learn why that makes us so dangerous." The battle continued, with the Imperial fleet facing an enemy they couldn't see, using weapons they couldn't understand, and fighting in ways they had never imagined possible. Humanity's first lesson in asymmetric warfare was being written in the darkness of space, and the Empire was learning it the hard way. Saturn's rings glowed like a golden halo in the darkness of space as the largest fleet in Imperial history emerged from hyperspace. 10,000 ships, from massive dreadnoughts to swarms of fighters, filled the space around the gas giant. At their center, Supreme Commander Valex's flagship, a vessel the size of a small moon, pulsed with enough energy to destroy entire solar systems. Admiral Ta-1 stood on the bridge of the Terran Dawn, his expression calm as he watched the Imperial Armada take formation. Earth's combined fleet seemed tiny in comparison. Just a few hundred ships visible to the enemy sensors. The rest of humanity's forces remained hidden, cloaked by technologies the Empire couldn't even imagine. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," Sun Mai announced from her tactical station. Her fingers moved across holographic controls as she analyzed the incoming transmission. "Supreme Commander Valex is demanding our immediate surrender." Taiwan's weathered face showed no emotion as he listened to the Imperial Commander's ultimatum. The crystalline being's voice boomed through the bridge speakers, its harmonics carrying equal parts rage and desperation. "Primitive vermin," Valex's voice resonated. "You have corrupted the natural order. Your resistance ends today. Surrender now, and we may yet spare your species from complete extinction." The bridge crew remained focused on their stations, years of training evident in their calm efficiency. They had prepared for this moment, knowing the Empire would eventually commit its full strength to crushing what they saw as an impossible uprising. "Sir," Sun Mai called out, her voice tense. "They're deploying their planet killer weapons, multiple signatures detected. They're positioning them around Saturn's orbit." The tactical display showed dozens of massive devices emerging from the Imperial fleet's ranks. Each one was capable of destroying a planet, using technology that had brought countless civilizations to their knees. They were the Empire's ultimate weapons, never before deployed in such numbers. Taiwan allowed himself a small smile. "Send the signal to all ships. Activate the quantum shield network." Throughout the solar system, hidden generators suddenly came to life. A web of pure energy began to form, connecting every planet, moon, and station in an intricate pattern that had taken centuries to perfect. The quantum shield network was humanity's greatest achievement, a defense system that operated on principles the Empire had never even theorized. "Network is online," Sun Mai reported. "All nodes responding. shield integrity at 100%. The Imperial fleet launched their first attack, planet-killer weapons firing simultaneously. Beams of devastating energy cut through space, enough power in each shot to crack a world in half. They struck the quantum shield network and simply disappeared, absorbed into the energy web without leaving a trace. Impossible. Valix's voice thundered across the communications channels. All units, concentrate fire. Destroy their defenses. The Empire's entire fleet opened fire, pouring enough energy into their attack to vaporize a solar system. The quantum shield network glowed brighter with each hit, absorbing the energy and redirecting it through its vast web of connections. "Sir," Sun Mai said, a note of satisfaction in her voice, "the shield network is now fully charged, ready to implement counterattack protocols." Taiwan nodded. "Show them what humanity has been building all these years. Return their energy with our compliments." The quantum shield network pulsed, and all the absorbed energy was suddenly redirected. Not as simple attacks, but as precisely calculated quantum strikes that bypassed the Imperial ship's shields completely. Vessels that had seemed invincible began to break apart as their atomic bonds were disrupted by forces they had no defense against. "Enemy fleet is attempting to regroup," Sun Mai reported. "They're falling back to secondary positions." She paused, checking her readings. "Sir, they're preparing to deploy their secondary weapon systems. Signal the hidden fleets." Taiwan ordered. "It's time for the full demonstration." From behind Saturn's rings, from within the atmospheres of gas giants, from cloaked positions throughout the system, humanity's true military force revealed itself. Thousands of ships, each more advanced than anything the Empire had ever encountered, moved into attack positions. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Imperial ships found their weapons useless against quantum shields. Their most devastating attacks were absorbed and turned against them. Their formations were broken by weapons they couldn't detect and tactics they couldn't counter. "Supreme Commander Valix is requesting direct communication," Sun Mai announced after hours of combat. The Imperial fleet had been reduced to less than half its original size, while humanity's forces remained largely intact. Taiwan straightened his uniform. "Put him through." The crystalline form of Valix appeared on the main screen, his usual brilliant colors now dulled with what humans had learned was fear. "What are you?" he demanded. No primitive race could have developed such weapons. "We're not primitive," Taiwan replied calmly. "We never were. We simply understood something your empire never did. The best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't know exists until it's too late." He gestured to the tactical display showing the devastating losses the Imperial fleet had suffered. "You can retreat now, Supreme Commander. Take what's left of your fleet and go. Or you can continue this battle, and we'll be forced to demonstrate even more of humanity's capabilities." The threat hung in the space between them, made more potent by the fact that everyone knew it wasn't empty. Humanity had proven they had weapons and defenses the Empire had never dreamed possible. What else might they be hiding? Valix's form shimmered with rapidly changing colors. Anger, fear, and confusion all visible in the crystalline patterns. Without another word, he cut the communication. Minutes later, the remains of the Imperial fleet began to retreat, their mighty armada reduced to a scattered collection of damaged ships limping away from the battlefield. "Should we pursue?" Sun Mai asked. Taiwan shook his head. "No, let them go report what they've seen here. Let them tell the Empire that humanity isn't just ready for them. We're far beyond anything they imagined possible." He turned to look out at Saturn's rings, now scattered with the debris of Imperial ships. "The real war is just beginning." The Imperial capital world of Crystallis glittered like a massive jewel in space, its crystalline cities reaching toward the stars. But today, the usual brilliance was dimmed by fear as 5 human vessels hung in high orbit, their quantum drives pulsing with barely contained power. Each ship was larger than the largest Imperial dreadnought, their very presence a statement of human technological superiority. Inside the Grand Council chamber, the crystalline forms of the hegemony's highest leaders shifted with nervous energy. Their usual confident glow had faded to dull, anxious colors as they watched the human ships through the chamber's transparent ceiling. These vessels could reduce their entire world to atoms, yet they simply waited, silent and imposing. Ambassador Hayan walked into the chamber with measured steps, her diplomatic uniform pristine. The sound of her boots on the crystal floor echoed in the unnatural silence. Behind her, a massive hologram of General Jiho materialized, adding to the council's discomfort. Honorable members of the Hegemony Council, Hayan began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. I come bearing both news and a choice. The council members' colors shifted rapidly, a sign of agitation. High Councilor Merix, his crystalline form larger and more elaborate than the others, spoke first. You dare come here, to our sacred capital. Hayan smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We dare many things, Counselor. As your forces have learned. She gestured, and General Jiho's hologram expanded, showing multiple tactical displays. Would you like to see your empire's current status? The displays showed scenes of devastation across imperial space. Human forces were systematically dismantling the empire's defenses in 3 different sectors. Imperial ships fell to weapons they couldn't understand, while human vessels seemed to ignore the laws of physics themselves. These attacks are happening right now, Jiho's hologram stated. Your forces are not just being defeated, they're being dismantled. We've captured your technology, analyzed it, and found it wanting. One of the younger council members flared bright with anger. Impossible. Our empire has ruled for 10,000 years. We cannot be defeated by primitives. Hayan's expression hardened. Look above you, she said quietly. Those 5 ships could end this world's existence in moments. We chose not to. Just as we chose not to destroy your retreating fleets. Just as we chose to come here with an offer instead of an ultimatum. She stepped forward, and despite her small size compared to the crystalline beings, every council member seemed to shrink back. Your empire stands at a crossroads, she announced. The choice between destruction and adaptation is yours to make. The tactical displays showed more scenes, human forces using quantum technology to disable entire defense networks, gravity weapons tearing imperial stations apart, stealth ships appearing from nowhere to strike with perfect precision. We've spent centuries preparing for this moment, Hayan continued. While you saw us as primitives barely worth noticing, we studied you. We learned your weaknesses. We developed technologies you thought impossible. And now we offer you a chance to survive. High Councilor Merix's colors had faded to a pale, frightened blue. What are your terms? Simple ones, Hayan replied. The empire ends its expansion. All conquered worlds are given the choice of independence. Those who wish to remain part of your civilization may do so, but as equals, not subjects. The council chamber erupted in shocked colors and harmonics. You would destroy everything we've built. One councilor cried. No, Hayan corrected. We're offering you the chance to build something better. A cooperative of worlds, working together by choice rather than force. The alternative, she gestured to the ships above, is considerably less pleasant. General Jiho's hologram expanded again, showing more tactical data. We're currently dismantling your military infrastructure across 17 systems. We can continue until nothing remains, or you can help us build a new order. The council members' colors shifted through various patterns as they communicated among themselves in their crystalline language. Finally, High Councilor Merix spoke again, his tone resigned. And if we agree to these terms, what guarantees do we have? The same guarantee we've given you since the beginning, Hayan answered. We keep our word. We warned you to run. You didn't listen. We warned you not to fight. You didn't listen. Now we're offering you peace, cooperation, and a chance to evolve beyond empire into something greater. She paused, looking each council member in their crystalline faces. But understand this, if you accept our terms, and then break them. What comes next will make our current demonstrations look like child's play." The council chamber fell silent again. Above, the human ships continued their silent watch, their presence a constant reminder of how far humanity had come while the Empire wasn't looking. "You have 1 hour to decide," Hayan stated. "Choose wisely. The future of your species depends on it." As the council began their deliberations, Hayan stood quietly, watching their shifting colors with careful attention. Behind her, General Jeho's hologram continued displaying the systematic dismantling of the Empire's military might, a reminder of what awaited them if they chose poorly. The Empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years faced its greatest challenge not from a superior military force, but from a species that had simply outsmarted them at every turn. Now, in their own capital, they had to decide whether to accept reality or face extinction. Above Crystallos, the human ships waited patiently, their quantum drives humming with enough power to reduce the crystal world to dust. They didn't need to fire a shot. Their mere presence, and the knowledge of what humanity had already accomplished, was enough to break the Empire's will to fight. Sunlight filtered through the cracked crystal walls of the Imperial Palace, creating rainbow patterns across the floor of the Grand Assembly Hall. The damage wasn't from battle. The human forces had never needed to fire a shot at the capital. Instead, it came from a hasty removal of the old regime's symbols of power as the Empire transformed itself into something new. Admiral Ta-1 stood before the gathered representatives, his uniform pristine but intentionally understated. Around him, crystalline beings of various colors and sizes filled the chamber, along with delegates from dozens of formerly subjugated species. The war had lasted just 3 months, 92 days that had changed the course of galactic history. "We tried to warn you," he said simply, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "Humanity spent centuries preparing for this moment, not because we wanted war, but because we understood the universe better than you thought." The new High Speaker, a younger crystalline being named Lyrix, pulsed with colors of acknowledgement. "We understand that now, Admiral. Though many of us still struggle to comprehend how you achieved such advancement in secret." Taiwan allowed himself a small smile. "By watching, learning, understanding that the greatest power isn't in weapons or ships, but in patience and preparation." He gestured to the holographic displays showing the ongoing reconstruction efforts across former Imperial space. "Your empire saw what it expected to see, a primitive race barely worth noticing. That was your first mistake." The delegates murmured among themselves, their various species each expressing agreement in their own ways. The crystalline beings shifted colors, the tentacled Vorex swayed, and the energy-based Luminoth pulsed with understanding. "The treaty before you," Ta-1 continued, "is not a document of surrender. It's a framework for cooperation." He activated a larger hologram, showing the proposed new galactic structure. "Each world will have equal representation. Technology will be shared, not hoarded. Defense will be mutual, not imposed." One of the older crystalline counselors flared with concern. "But what guarantees do we have that Earth won't simply become the new empire? Your power is undeniable." Taiwan's response was to activate another hologram, this one showing Earth's hidden research facilities being transformed into public institutions. "We're opening everything," he explained. "Our quantum technology, our gravity manipulation, our stealth systems, all will be shared with member worlds. Power becomes far less threatening when everyone has access to it." The chamber erupted in surprised reactions. The concept of willingly sharing such advanced technology was foreign to species raised under imperial rule. Yet here were the humans, offering freely what they had fought so hard to develop. "But why?" asked a Vorex delegate, their tentacles writhing with curiosity. "Why share the very advantages that gave you victory?" "Because that's the point," Taiwan explained. "We didn't develop these technologies to rule, but to prevent anyone from ruling over others again. The universe is vast, and its mysteries endless. We believe exploration and discovery should be cooperative efforts, not competitive ones. He walked to the center of the chamber, where a simple document waited for signatures. This treaty transforms the galaxy from an empire into a federation. Earth will serve not as rulers, but as guardians, helping maintain the peace while each species develops in its own way. The signing ceremony that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Representatives from hundreds of worlds, former conquerors and conquered alike, came forward to mark their agreement. The humans had not only defeated an empire, they had changed the very nature of galactic civilization. As the ceremony concluded, Ta-1 stood with the new council, watching the sun set through the crystal walls. "The warning we gave was ignored," he said quietly, "but the lesson will never be forgotten. The age of empires is over. The age of cooperation begins." Above the palace, Earth's ships hung in formation with vessels from other worlds, their quantum drives pulsing in harmony. They were no longer weapons of war, but symbols of a new era, one where humanity's greatest victory had come not from destroying an empire, but from transforming it into something better. The galaxy would remember this day not as the end of a war, but as the beginning of a renaissance. Humanity had emerged not as conquerors, but as teachers, showing the way toward a future where power came from understanding, not dominance. As night fell on the capital world, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the dawn of a new age. The warning had been simple: run. But the message that followed was far more important: join us. And finally, the galaxy was ready to listen. ****.